All right, Brian, welcome to your video analysis. In this video, we're going to identify one professional player that we're going to use to compare yourself to, and that's Chase Utley. I'll explain a little bit why I chose Chase Utley, and then we'll follow up with your strengths as a hitter, the things that you do well. So with that in mind, let's take a look here on the screen at you and Chase Utley, and one of the things you're going to notice immediately, obviously you're left-handed, but more importantly, notice how similar your stances are. That was one of the first reasons why I chose Chase Utley as your pro. And the second reason why I chose Chase Utley is because both of you guys have a very similar hitting timeline. And what I mean by the timeline is the type of stride the hitter is going to take, because all professional hitters will do something differently to get their front foot down. Now in Chase Utley's case, he happens to be very simple in how he strides. And you're going to notice here as I take him forward, you're going to notice a very short stride, and his front foot stays low to the ground. So it's a very simple and short timeline to get his front foot landed so that he's ready to swing. And if we look at you on the left-hand side, you're going to notice that you also have that very short and simple timeline. If you watch here with your front foot as you take your stride, it stays low to the ground, and you get into a good, ready hitting position. So with that in mind, the next thing I'd like to do is play both of your guys' clips simultaneously. So you'll get a chance to watch yourself in sync with Chase Utley. And what I'd like you to do is notice the strengths, notice the similarities between you and Chase Utley, and then try to pick out the differences between the two of you. And after that, we'll talk about your strengths as a hitter. All right, now that we got that finished, the next thing I want to do is talk about what you do well as a hitter, and it really begins with your stance position. One of the things we look at in our stance is for good balance, and we can recognize balance in a couple of ways. First way we look at balance is the knees in relationship to the feet. You'll notice here with Chase Utley that his knees are inside of his feet, and his feet are slightly wider than his shoulders. So he's got a great sense of balance with his lower half. The next thing we look for in a good balanced stance is the position of the eyes in relationship to the belly button. And you'll notice here that Chase Utley's eyes are slightly in front of his belly button. And that's important because if he was to look at us directly on the screen here, his head would be directly in the middle of his body. And as we all know, when your head's in the center of your body, you're going to be balanced. And so if you look over here on the left-hand side with you, you can see the same thing. Your eyes are slightly in front of your belly button, as you can see right there. So that's fantastic. You'll also notice here that your feet are in a good balanced position because your knees are slightly inside your feet, and your feet are slightly wider than shoulder width in terms of your foundation. And the last strength you have at your stance is the position of your hands. And even though all professional hitters will start with their hands in a different place in their stance, this position right here by the back shoulder, nice and relaxed, is a great position to be in because it's very efficient. You have to do very little to get your hands loaded. So that's fantastic. Now the next strength that we're going to talk about with you is something that I call a negative move. And the negative move is simply the hitter's preparation to stride. It's basically getting geared up and storing up potential energy before the hitter actually creates momentum towards the pitcher. And so what you're going to notice here with Chase Utley, he's going to begin to lift this front heel, and when he does that, as you can see right there, his belly button goes back just a little bit. And he's just shifting the weight on the inside of his back leg here, and he's prepared to stride forward. And while he does that, notice how his balance stays intact. His eyes stay slightly in front of his belly button. Now, if we take a look at you over here on the left-hand side, you're going to do the same thing. Get into a negative move right there. You can see that your belly button's gone back a little bit. And while you do that, more importantly, you keep that balance. Your eyes stay slightly in front of your belly button. So that's a great negative move. And the next thing we look for in a good hitter is a positive move. And this is where Chase Utley's actually going to begin his stride. And as he goes forward, you're going to notice that belly button actually travels closer towards the pitcher And right here his front foot lands and he's ready to hit. And you'll notice the belly button's gone forward, which is why I call it a positive move. And he's in a good launch position. And if we do the same thing here with you on the left-hand side, we're going to go ahead and watch you take your positive move towards the pitcher to get yourself ready to swing. And there your front foot's down. And you'll notice that you do a good job creating momentum. Your belly buttons come forward, and you're in a good launch position. Now, the next strength that I want to talk to you about is something that a lot of young hitters don't do particularly well, but you manage to do a nice job. And that's the position of the bat when the front foot lands. All good professional hitters, when their front foot lands, they're going to get in a launch position. And the barrel of the bat's going to look something like this. The barrel's going to be tilted towards the head. The knob of the bat's going to be pointed towards the catcher. And the arms are nice and close to the torso. And when they do this, you can see that there's a slight inward turn of the shoulders towards home plate. And the eyes stay slightly in front of the belly button. And you'll notice in this position that the feet are spread out. He's got a nice wide foundation. And what this is going to do is this is going to help him shift his weight as he goes into his swing, as you can see right there. And if we look at you in your launch position, you'll notice a lot of similarities. And if we start from the ground up, you'll notice that your feet are spread out. You get a nice wide foundation, which is going to allow you to shift your weight. The barrel of the bat's in a pretty good position. It's upright, so it's closer to the hitting zone, as Chase Utley is right here as well. And I also like how you maintain your balance. Your eyes stay slightly in front of your belly button. These are all great things. Another strength that I want to point out is your ability to shift your weight throughout your swing. And a lot of that is predicated off what you do to get your front foot down. But if we go over here and look at Chase Utley, I'm going to mark a little green line behind his back foot. And as I take him in his swing, you're going to see him shift his weight in his lower half. You're going to see the weight shift here. And notice what happens to the back foot at the point of contact. It actually comes further forward. And this is just simply a product of shifting the weight. You'll notice that the head does not move. The head stays on one axis of rotation. But the weight shifts so violently and strong in the legs that the back foot has to drag forward a little bit. And that's a good signal of good weight shift. And if we look over here for you on the left-hand side, you're going to see that your head stays on one axis of rotation, but your weight shifts extremely well into the point of contact. So there's a lot of things you do well as a hitter, Brian, and I'm really excited about where you're at, and we look forward to seeing you in the West Bloomfield program because of so many strengths that you have as a hitter. And in the next video that I make, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can continue to build off of those strengths.